A lot of the movie, the actors lit with flashlights, and I'd wear like a white shirt. I'd be like, point the flashlight at my shirt and you're gonna light yourself. And they'd be like, what? And then I would have a flashlight attached to the camera that we'd put a card on the ceiling and I would be bouncing it off the ceiling. Hi guys, I'm Zack Snyder, and today we're gonna talk a little bit about cinematography in my films and some of the tools I use to make the films and sort of the rules I set for myself when I'm doing it. So let's get into it. This is Snyder School. Anna's gonna go deep, it's right there. Boom! My mother was a photographer, and I just have always loved images and making images since I was a wee lad. And I went to film school. I kind of was introduced to the concept of a cinematographer. So what happened with me was I got out of school and I made a bunch of commercials and music videos and stuff. I can't remember what job, but I just decided to start shooting myself. You know, it was hard. It was a little bit of a disaster at first, but in the end, it kind of stuck. And then when I came to make movies, the studio at that time was like, look, you're a first-time director. We probably feel like it'd be better if you could just focus on that and not worry about the cinematography. I was like, that's fine. Boom, boom. Okay, gotcha. It's all pretty straightforward in the end. Because in the end, what all this is for me is just honing in on the things that I like to look at. You can get a DSLR, you can get a range-finding camera. These are Leicas, they're expensive, but there's plenty of affordable and cool cameras. You have one in your pocket. Every single person has one. The place where you're headed with all this is that every single filmmaker, you're the prism that the thing goes through. So every single person could hold this camera up and everyone would take a different picture with it. And that's awesome. That's a beautiful thing. I think what happens is when you start making images, you start to see how their effect on the image you make. And then that leads you toward the thing that your aesthetic is interested in. I think it's worth going through those images and taking them apart in your mind. I do this all the time and say, like, what do I like about this? That leads you toward the day when you're comfortable saying, like, you know what? I think if the camera was a little bit lower and just a little bit to the left, and I think if it wasn't quite such a long lens, or if we want to get closer, let's just move the whole thing closer. This language starts to become intuitive to the way you think, because you can picture how the image will change as you change the elements that go into making the picture.
These lights are on right now.
I had been down this rabbit hole for a couple years with these Canon Dream lenses. The Canon Dream lenses are these lenses built in the 60s by this Japanese film lens maker, worked for Canon. So commercially, I think they produced 20,000 lenses in the 60s total. I don't know how many survive, but they have this really kind of creamy, crazy, bokeh-looking things. Anyway, they're just really, I find them really particularly cool. And so I just started shooting with my Noctilux at first, and then I started putting the Dream lenses on this thing. But then the guys at Zero Optic, they took the Dream lenses completely apart and rehoused them, and so they could be cinema lenses. So cut to, I'm gonna shoot Army because I'm gonna shoot the entire movie wide open. There's never gonna be a stop on any lens for the entire film. And I just feel like it's a rude thing to ask of a cinematographer. It was really about just sort of taking responsibility for the experimental nature of what I wanted to do. And that if it was a complete fuck up, then it'd be my fault. And I'm fine with that. But I was really enjoying all the zombie makeup tests that I would shoot with this camera with the normal Canon Dream lens. And so we just did a lot of shots and then a lot of low light because it's 0.95. And I was really experimenting with like how much natural lighting I could do and how carefully, you could control the environment. And it was really liberating. Before I met Jared, I had never shot a movie digitally. Army is the first movie I shot with a digital camera. I had digital cameras, I had Leicas, and they made great images for me. If you think about that, oh, well, you shoot stills with digital cameras, so I don't understand the problem. The whole first 8 minutes of the movie, we shot it at dusk, right? And so we were basically on the ragged edge of exposure. That's when the cameras, for me, where you really realized how how far you could go. But the cool thing about this camera is that like you have this amazing sensor and this amazing technology that's inside of this thing.
The Monstro and sensor is just at that maximum larger format size where you can really capture all the light you need, super high dynamic range, and use the big lens. Any camera before this wouldn't have worked for you. You couldn't have got those shots. We beat a lot of the technology demons out to make this sensor and this camera. With the lens, you know, the lenses are not new lenses. Those lenses
Right, these lenses are built in the 60s.
Yeah. That is the excitement when you can take something that's so state-of-the-art and take this old ratchety lens and be like, what happens when we do this? Boom. And you push that sensor to the edge so many times during that film. I mean, you have to be pretty brave to shoot the film the way you did. Shooting wide open lenses at this speed, and you've got millimeters of critical focus.
In the end, these cameras really turned out to be amazing, and I've had a really great time working with them. Now point past.
There.
Yeah, perfecto.
Okay.
Okay, but now back up a little bit. Yeah, but what if I'm here? You see our relationship?
I do, yeah.
So I have the script, I have these words in it. I draw the scene in a wide shot. They're gonna come in, sort of see the environment, sit down. Maybe there'll be some objects in the foreground. Here's an example. I will show you this is a kind of, it's probably a good scene because, you know, it's like a basic scene. So it's Scott and Tanaka, right? Tanaka comes in and, you know, Scott's wiping his hands off, walks up, they shake hands. This is literally a frame in the movie. They move over and sit down at this table, this wide shot right here, threw a picture of iced tea or something. And on the day, I just went and got that because I'd done this work sitting at my desk. When you're drawing it, there's no production constraints on you when you're drawing. There is a consistency that you can have. You kind of have the same language and you're continuing to draw in that language. Now, when you're shooting the movie for real, it might rain, the trucks might break down. There's all these production restraints that are gonna be on you. But the difference is the consistent language of the script got to the drawings and now are in your hand on the day. It tends to give you a chance to kind of remember the consistency that you had then on a day of complete pandemonium and mayhem where there's no consistency at all. You have to go, and then you gotta get him. We shot this sequence in Atlantic City in an abandoned casino, and we kind of mapped out the action. So the idea was that I wanted to do all the guns, use gas guns and not real guns, because I knew that the proximity to the kills were all could be really close. You know, wadding comes out in real fire. You know, frankly, it's dangerous. And so I was like, oh, let's see if we can do it with gas guns, and we'll build LED panel, right, with a trigger on it. And you have to kind of like trigger the muzzle flash, which is the interactive lighting, in sync with the gun firing. It's difficult, but everyone did a great job. But that's how you get the muzzle flash interactive lighting in the room. I'm here with Damon Caro, my longtime friend and stunt coordinator and fight choreographer and action designer. And Damon and I met when I was working on commercials, and then Dawn of the Dead came along, and I was like, God, I really need Damon to come along. So that was our first movie, and then the next movie we did was 300, which you can imagine had a lot more fight choreography.
Get a team, start blocking, start coming up with base choreography, do some test video, pick his brain. Hey, what do you think about this? Show him. Is this in the ballpark?
It's kind of a physical storyboard, you know, where you have like a group of people that you can kind of work out ideas with that are really gifted athletes. And there's kind of not a lot of things you can think of that they can't do. And it's like a dance, so they have to choreograph the dance first. That's not a quick process.
Yeah, generally not. Not when you're getting the precision and the detail. I mean, you know, that's the key. So when we shoot the stunt viz, we do try and be as specific as we can to the set. So obviously the sets haven't been completed at that time. So we're going off schematics, we're going off blueprints, and then we use a very economical version of replicating it, which are boxes that we use and/or pads. This wall will be here. This is going to be steps. How wide is this hallway, etc., depending on what the set will actually be.
But like the stunt viz is so clean and we know what we're doing and we're really prepared. And a lot of times we just crush through it. I mean, not to say it doesn't take a long time, but it's really a testament to the amount of prep and the amount of clarity we have with what we want to do.
This is your boy Mikey Guzman taping live from East Las Vegas. We got a group of, I counted at least 5.
The Guzman scene is when they're recruiting Guzman.
So this scene was just Shamblers, no alphas here. And then he talked about what he wanted the camera to do. You know, obviously we went over the script, and then we start doing some blocking versions. And this was pretty straightforward because it was supposed to be basically on a phone.
We knew this was going to be early in the schedule. We shot that in prep. We shot before we started filming the movie. So there was a lot of things that needed to get worked out, you know, because Guzman has to like get the triple headshot lined up, right? So he has to be in a position where that one disparate zombie gets into line with the other ones, you know, and these are the kind of things that these guys are kind of working out all day.
Everything emanates from story and character. That's what I think makes it real. It gives it texture.
That's where she runs out of. Yeah, when she's in this world. Yeah, we'll probably bring her a little closer.
When we do stunt viz, like we know the action sequences in the movie. And David and I have long conversations and we talk what we want to do, what is the beginning, middle, and end of the sequence. He's got great taste in action. He trusts me and I trust him. Like they'll go to the warehouse and the guys start working. Because you know if it works there, it will work when we do the movie. Like that's the real litmus test. It's like we just watch it and go like, oh, it's cool. And then let's go film it with like real cameras and real actors and everything and everyone in their makeup. So an exercise that anyone can do is start to play with your camera. Like take pictures, get your friends, you know, in a very short amount of time on a couple other YouTube videos, you could really learn everything there is to know about depth of field and how it works and what it means and all that. And the same thing with ISO and low light and daylight and NDs and all that stuff. It sounds complicated for a second, but you gotta get out and do it. And you gotta just get a camera and look through it. And don't be afraid to fuck up and make bad choices and make bad shots, because that's just how you learn.
It's way better.
Does it feel good?
Yeah, it's 100 times better.
I guess that's my experience with cinematography, so hope you enjoyed it. When you put two shots together, it's a new thing now.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the Netflix Film Club channel to get our latest exclusive videos. Plus, hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.